I signed on with Glacier National Park because the mountains felt honest. Sharp ridgelines, cold rivers, trails that rewarded you only if you respected them. You learn early that Glacier doesn't care who you are. It cares whether you know what you're doing. I'd been a backcountry ranger for 6 years, mostly patrolling the many Glacier and Belly River districts. I knew the noise of every ridge, the cries of Clark's nutcrackers circling over Ptarmigan Tunnel, the wind pouring through Swift Current Pass, the way a grizzly's breath cracks against its throat when it huffs a warning. So when something didn't match those sounds, it stood out in a way that's hard to explain. It felt wrong, the way a bone feels wrong when it's bent backward. This happened in early October, right after the last big snowfall that shuts the higher trails down. My partner that day was Ranger Elise Navarro, 10 years in the park, steady, quiet, and thoughtful, in that way people get when they've learned not to speak until the woods finish speaking first. Our assignment was simple: close down Poya Lake Campground, check bear poles, collect late-season garbage, then swing by Red Gap Pass Trail to verify a flood-damaged bridge. Routine: a clean in and out before dusk. We started from the Many Glacier Ranger Station, signed our log, left a route plan, and hiked in with light packs. Radio, first aid, bear spray, a small weather meter, and the usual end-of-season tools. It was about 38 degrees, wind out of the west, sky high and pale, good visibility. By the time we reached the Poya Lake Junction, the day had that brittle, early winter stillness where sounds carry too far. Even our boots felt loud on the frozen ground. We were about a mile from the lake when I heard the first odd thing. At first, I thought it was Elise behind me, saying, "Hey, can you hold up a sec?" That exact cadence. Casual, steady, not loud, just close enough to catch my attention. I stopped and turned. She was 20 feet back, tightening the strap on her gaiter. She hadn't said a word. We just looked at each other for a second, and I felt something small and cold move down behind my ribs. "You say something?" I asked. She shook her head. "Thought you did." We both stood still a moment longer, trying to place the voice. It had sounded like it came from maybe 10 feet behind me. Footsteps? None. Wind? Nothing. Birds? Quiet. Eventually, we shrugged it off. Maybe an echo off a boulder or a trick of the trees. But the silence that followed didn't feel like normal glacier quiet. It felt waiting. The lake was absolutely still when we arrived, a perfect black mirror cupped inside cold granite walls. The campground was empty, no recent tracks on the dirt tent pads, just a few frost-hardened footprints from a group the previous weekend. We started the usual tasks. Elise checked the bear pole. I began collecting micro-trash along the shore. That's when I saw something tangled on a low branch over the water. At first I thought it was fishing line, but when I got close, I realized it was hair. Several long strands, pale, almost white, clumped together like they'd been pulled by force and stuck in the bark by damp wind. Human hair? Possibly. But one strand was nearly 2 feet long. I put it in a sample bag. Glacier sees weird stuff. Lost wigs, fly fishing accidents, hikers brushing against branches. I wasn't jumping to conclusions, but the tracks below it bothered me. They were shallow, narrow-heeled impressions near the waterline, spaced in a way that didn't match boots, bears, deer, or moose. Almost like something had leaned down with elongated toes. I remember staring at them longer than necessary. My mind kept trying to shove them into normal categories, but they didn't fit any drawer I had. Elise, I called. She walked over, lowered her head, and studied the prints. Probably nothing, she murmured, but her jaw had tightened just a bit. Make a photo. We documented it, then finished our tasks and headed for the bridge site. The trail climbed steadily into a stretch of wildfire burn from a few years back. Skeletal trunks, long shadows, little cover. Halfway up is when the second thing happened. We were moving single file along a narrow corridor of burned lodgepole when a voice said, "Elise?" Not shouted, not far, just a soft call, like someone recognizing her from 10 feet ahead. But it wasn't my voice. It was her brother's. I'd met him once. Same timbre, same gentle rising tone at the end. Elise froze mid-step, muscles locked, eyes forward. "Don't turn," she whispered. The woods behind us were empty. The woods ahead were empty. The air had gone perfectly still. No wind, no shifting trunks, no normal glacier movement. Even the ash scent seemed to flatten. The voice came again, this time from our right. "Elise? Hey." Her entire face went still. Not in fear, exactly. Not for an iPod. But in that trained ranger way of stripping emotion to make room for action. She said, very quietly, "We're leaving. Back to Many Glacier. Now." We didn't run. Running makes predators curious. We simply backed down the trail, slow and steady, eyes scanning every direction. As soon as we cleared the burn and stepped into thicker, living trees, the wind kicked back up in a sudden gust. Like someone had been holding a breath and finally let go. Only then did Elise exhale. We stopped near the lake junction so Elise could radio in a status update. "Many Glacier, this is Ranger Unit 4 checking in." Static. Then, "Unit 4, go ahead." Crystal clear. Signal strong. Which meant whatever had been mimicking voices hadn't been messing with our equipment. I didn't like that. I liked it even less when Elise switched off her mic and said, "Did you notice the timing?" "What timing?" "No wind during the voice. Wind returns after." I had noticed. I'd just been trying very hard not to assign meaning to it. We kept moving. The shadows stretched long across the valley as we hiked out. The last sunlight lit Mount Henkel in orange, while the trail dropped into pockets of blue dusk. About a mile from the trailhead, the woods on our left grew unusually quiet again. And then something stepped onto the trail behind us. We didn't hear footsteps, not exactly. More like weight shifting on frozen soil. I turned slowly. Between two burned trunks, about 15 yards back, stood a tall silhouette. Too tall for a bear on all fours. Too narrow for a moose. Too still to be human. I couldn't make out features. Just a vertical line of dark shape, like a person standing upright, but too thin, too long in the limbs. "Elise," I whispered. "See it?" She didn't turn. "Yes, what do we do?" "Keep walking," she said. "Don't break stride." So we did. Each step felt like stepping off the edge of a cliff. After 10 seconds, the voice came again. Softly, almost gentle, but wrong in a way that made every hair on my neck stand up. "Hey, can you hold up a sec?" But this time, it was my voice. Perfectly matched. Tone, cadence, breath shape. Like someone had recorded me speaking earlier and was playing it back through a broken instrument. I didn't turn again. I couldn't. Elise murmured, eyes front, and then, even softer, "Don't answer it." We kept walking. The voice repeated, closer now. "Wait, hey, where are you going?" But the tone wasn't curious anymore. It was learning us, testing our responses, trying different inflections, the way an animal tests a scent. "Don't engage," Elise said again. "It wants a reaction." We forced our pace steady. The trailhead was close now, maybe a quarter mile. Through the trees, I could just make out the pale slats of the wooden sign. If we could reach the lot, get into the truck, get the engine turned. The voice changed again. This time, it spoke Elise's mother's voice. I'd never heard her mother speak, but Elise had. And the way her body tightened told me it was accurate. "Honey?" Soft, pleading sound. "Honey, wait." I heard Elise swallow hard. "Keep moving," she whispered, but her voice cracked for the first time. Something stepped again behind us. Closer. Too close. A sound like a long limb brushing bark. The moment we saw the trailhead sign clearly, Elise finally said, "When I say run, we run." My heart slammed once like it hit a wall. Then she said, "Run." We sprinted the final stretch. Packs bouncing. Breath hard. Boots slipping on frozen ground. Behind us, I heard something move fast. Not like a charging bear. Not like a person scrambling. More like a shape, sliding between trees without touching the ground. I didn't look back. The truck was 40 yards ahead. 30. 20. We hit the gravel lot and bolted for the vehicle. Elise fumbled the keys, caught them, slammed the door behind us, and jammed them into the ignition. For one split second, I expected the engine not to turn, but it roared alive instantly. She threw it in reverse, spun us around, and tore down many Glacier Road like the mountains were collapsing behind us. Only when the lodge lights came into view did she finally slow down. We didn't talk until we were safely inside the station. Even then, it took us a moment. Finally, Elise said, very quietly, "It wasn't mimicking voices." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" "It was mimicking memories. And that was worse than anything I'd been trying not to say. Because she was right. It didn't just know how we sounded. It knew who we cared about, who we trusted, who could make us pause, turn around. let our guard down. It wasn't calling our names. It was calling our instincts. We filed the report with careful, clinical language. Unidentified auditory anomaly observed near Poya Lake. Unknown silhouette observed in distance during exit. No wildlife approach or contact. Recommend increased late-season patrol caution. No mention of mimicry. No mention of the voices. No mention of the prints or hair. Because none of that fits neatly into any official box. And rangers don't file reports that scare tourists. But a week later, I found something taped quietly to my locker. A sample bag. Inside, more of that long, pale hair Elise had collected from the lakeshore. Except this time, it wasn't tangled or torn. It had been braided, a single, neat, human-like braid. And the label on the bag wasn't in Elise's handwriting. It wasn't in mine either. There was no label at all. Just the braid. Perfect. Clean. Like someone wanted to show us they could do more than mimic voices. They could mimic what people do with their hands. I still patrol Glacier. I still love the mountains. But every fall, when the burn areas go quiet and the wind drops off all at once, I feel something in the stillness watching. Like it's remembering us. Like it's practicing the next voice it's going to use. And sometimes, when I'm alone on the trail and the air suddenly goes flat and heavy, I swear I hear a familiar whisper behind me say, "Hey, can you hold up a sec?" And I don't turn. Not anymore. I've worked Rocky Mountain National Park long enough to know what elk are capable of in the fall. People picture them grazing in meadows, bugling at sunset, steam lifting off their backs. They forget how violent the rut can be. They forget that a full-grown bull can weigh 700 pounds and carry a rack wide enough to gore a moving SUV. So when we get called about an elk down, it's usually one of three things: a car strike, a rut injury, or old age. There's always a reason, a simple story the ground can tell if you know how to read it. But last October, I found one that didn't fit into any box I knew. I found something that shouldn't have been able to happen at all. My name's Ranger Caleb Moreno, based out of the Kawanichi Valley side of the park. My partner that week was Ranger Dana Sullivan. Smart, calm, and grounded like seasoned wildlife techs get after enough years of seeing the same patterns repeat. On the morning it happened, the air was thin and cold enough to sting your teeth. Frost covered the grasses near Coyote Valley Trail, and the sunrise made a pale stripe across the Never Summer Mountains. At 7:14 a.m., dispatch radioed us. Unit 2, we've got hikers reporting a downed bull elk near the Willow Flats, north of the valley overlook. Unusual behavior prior to collapse. Can you respond? Unusual behavior usually means someone saw rut aggression and thought it was strange. But the tone in dispatch's voice made me listen a little harder. We grabbed our packs, loaded the truck, and headed up Trail Ridge Road. We reached the small pullout about 20 minutes later. Two hikers were waiting, a middle-aged couple from Kansas. Pale, anxious, but not dramatic. They explained what they saw. They'd been walking the Coyote Valley Trail at dawn, near the river edge. A bull elk stood alone in the flats, moving strangely, like it couldn't choose which direction to face. It kept turning in half circles, lifting and lowering its head, almost dazed. Then it staggered, made a low sound, and collapsed. "Did you see anything else in the area?" I asked. The man hesitated. "Maybe another elk? We heard something splash in the willows, but it didn't sound quite right." I didn't push. People often can't articulate what feels off in nature. Dana and I walked out into the flats. The frost began to melt under the sun, releasing that cold earth smell that always comes with the first thaw of the day. Chickadees chattered in the pines. Everything felt normal, except the bull. He lay on his side in a patch of flattened reeds, steam still rising from his hide. I expected punctures around the neck from a rut fight, or tearing at the hind legs from a predator. But the bull looked untouched, at least on the outside. I crouched down beside him and placed a hand on his flank. Still warm. Death within the hour. No blood, no bite marks, no obvious trauma. But then I saw the rack. Both antlers were twisted backward, not broken, not snapped, not tangled, but forced back toward the spine, bent in a severe arc that should have shattered the pedicles completely. Elk antlers don't bend like that. They break. Dana crouched beside me. "What in the hell?" she whispered. She traced the base where the antler met the skull. No cracks, no tearing, just a warped angle nature didn't intend. "It's like something pushed them backward with steady pressure," she murmured. "But what would do that? And why no struggle marks?" I scanned the ground. The grasses around the bull were flattened in a perfect circle, but not torn up. No gouges from hooves, no signs of thrashing, no other tracks. It was as if the bull had simply lain down and let something quietly overpower its body. I felt a coldness in my palms. Dana took out her camera and began taking photos. "We need wildlife on this." I nodded. "I'll radio it in." I stepped away, keyed my mic, and stopped. Because from the willows to our right, I heard something move. Something large, but not with the two-beat step of elk hooves. More like a dragging shift, deliberate and smooth. Dana heard it too. Her posture changed, tension creeping up her shoulders. I scanned the willows, but saw nothing but branches trembling lightly. No wind, just movement. We stayed still a long moment. Then the sound faded. When it was gone, the silence hit heavier than before. By 9 a.m., 2 members of our wildlife crew arrived, along with a biologist named Dr. Hartwell. Older guy, sharp eyes, steady hands, had been with the park for 20 years. I showed him the rack. He stared a long time without saying anything. Finally, he murmured, "No predator did this. No rut injury either. The angle is too clean, the force too uniform." He checked the tissues at the base of the antlers, running gloved fingers along the bone. No tearing, no shearing. If this were a fight, we'd see bone shards, blood, something. But this looks compressed. He took a breath. I've seen antlers snapped forward in fights, I've never seen one folded backward intact. The two wildlife techs lifted the bull slightly to check the underside. Dana and I stood back, watching the willows. That's when one of the techs said, Hartwell, you need to see this. We walked over. On the bull's back, just below the shoulder blades, the hair lay strangely parted, as if pressed by something smooth and heavy. No bruising, no tearing, just a subtle, unnatural indentation. Hartwell traced it with a gloved finger. Pressure marks, he said. Something large pressed down here. How large? I asked. Larger than a bear, he said, without looking up. I felt my throat tighten. How heavy? Dana asked. He hesitated. At least 1,000 pounds. Probably more. The flats were quiet. Too quiet. Even the chickadees had stopped. We all turned toward the willows at the same time. Instinct, not reason. Something was watching. I could feel it. We transported the bull's body for necropsy, but before we left the area entirely, dispatch radioed again. Unit 2, another report of injured elk, this time near the Holsworth Historic Site. Possible collapse. Dana and I exchanged a look. 2 bull elk found down within the same morning was beyond unusual. Copy, I said. We're en route. Holsworth is only a few minutes north, still deep in the Kawunichi Valley. We drove slow, scanning the meadows. As we approached the historic cabins, I spotted movement near the river. A cow elk stood alone, staring into the willows with her ears pinned flat against her head. Not grazing, not moving, just staring. Dana pointed. There, 50 feet from the cow, lay another body. A yearling bull, same position, side down, head twisted slightly backward. I felt a cold wave move up my spine before I even reached it. The yearling's antlers were smaller, but the injury was the same. The rack pressed backward toward the shoulders in an arc too uniform, too intentional. Caleb, Dana whispered, look at the ground. No tracks, no sign of a struggle, just like the first. And then I noticed something else. The willows nearby were bent. Not broken, bent. All facing the same direction, downward and inward. Like something massive had pushed through the thicket with slow, controlled weight, leaving the branches bowed rather than snapped. I crouched, touched one of the bent willow stems. It was cold and wet, as if something warm had passed through minutes ago. Dana looked at me. Something was here just now. Not something hunting, not something killing quickly. Something studying its environment. Something scouting quietly. The cow elk suddenly made a soft, strangled mew, deep fear, and bolted across the meadow, hooves kicking frost into the air. We both turned sharply, expecting to see whatever had spooked her. But the willows were still, too still. The necropsy report came back the next afternoon. Hartwell called us into the small wildlife lab behind the ranger station. The room smelled like disinfectant and cold stainless steel. He held a clipboard, but didn't look at it when he spoke. The antlers weren't broken, he said. They were reshaped. Reshaped? Dana repeated. Not snapped, not cracked. He looked up at us, bent, like heated metal. I felt my mouth go dry. "That's not possible," I said. "Right," he agreed quietly. "It isn't." He walked us to the exam table where the skull had been cleaned. "Look at the bone surface. Where cracks or fractures should have been, the bone was smooth, unnaturally so, as if softened and warped without breaking. Bone can't do that, even in extreme conditions," Hartwell continued. "There were internal injuries too, not lacerations, more like compression damage, organs displaced downward, ribs flexed inward, no bruising, no tearing." "Like pressure," Dana murmured. "Yes," he said. "Massive pressure, but applied evenly, slowly." "How slowly?" I asked. He hesitated, slow enough that the elk didn't struggle. My stomach dropped. Elk fight, elk flee, elk thrash. It's what they do. For a bull to simply submit to pressure meant one thing. Whatever applied that force was something the elk could not process as a threat, or something the elk couldn't see. Hartwell lowered his voice. "There's one more thing." He lifted a second bag. Inside was a cluster of bent willow twigs. "These were embedded in the hide," he said. "Pressed in, all facing the same direction." "How deep?" Dana asked. "Not deep at all. Barely into the fur. Like the elk was being held against a surface of bowed willows. A surface, not the ground, not soil. A surface made of vegetation, a shape that held the elk still." I couldn't speak for several seconds. Then Hartwell closed the bag. "I'm not filing a cause of death until I understand more," he said. "And right now, I don't understand any of it." Neither did we. We went back to the flats before sunset, just the two of us. We wanted to trace the bent willows, see if they formed a path or direction. The valley was bathed in gold light as we approached. Quiet. Still. Too still. We entered the thicket where the first elk had gone down, and almost immediately, I saw it. The willows didn't just bend, they arched, a long, curved tunnel of bowed branches, like something broad and heavy had glided low through the brush, shaping the vegetation around it. Dana exhaled slowly. "It's a path. Whatever it is, it moves through here regularly." The arch was about 4 feet tall, 6 feet wide, too wide for a mountain lion, too low for a moose. Something big, something elongated, something that didn't walk upright. We followed the tunnel for maybe 30 yards before it abruptly stopped in a small clearing. Stopped dead. The willow branches ended in a perfect circle, flattened, not torn. Dana's voice was barely a whisper. It rested here. I nodded slowly and waited. The air grew colder. The willows seemed to press inward. And then something moved behind us. A soft, dragging shift. Slow, deliberate. We both turned at the same time, but nothing was there. The tunnel we'd walked through looked darker now, deeper somehow, like the shadows had thickened. The air grew unnaturally still. Then, from somewhere inside the tunnel, came a sound I'll never forget. Not a growl, not a step, not a breath. A long, low exhale, as if something enormous had released air after holding it for a very long time. Dana's hand tightened around her bear spray. "Caleb," she whispered, "back out, now." We stepped out of the clearing slowly, never turning our backs to the tunnel. The exhale came again, closer now, but we still saw nothing, only the willows shifting, subtly, like something vast moved between them without disturbing them the way a body should. When we finally emerged into open meadow, I realized my legs were shaking. Dana didn't speak until we reached the truck. Then she said, "It wasn't stalking the elk." I swallowed. "What do you mean?" "It wasn't attacking them at all." She shut the truck door. Her voice was flat, steady. It was studying them, testing pressure, bending bone, seeing how they react. Understanding hit me like cold wind. The even pressure, the lack of struggle, the absence of trauma. It wasn't killing, it was experimenting, learning. Dana met my eyes, and it knows we were there today. That night, near closing, I walked behind the ranger station to lock the tool shed. The moon was out, lighting the valley in silver. As I passed the shed, something caught my eye. A cluster of willow branches, bound together in a gentle arc, laid across the gravel like a message. Bowed, not broken. A shape, a tunnel shape, and beside it, pressed into the frost, was a shallow impression. A long, smooth depression, like something large had been lying there, not sleeping, waiting. I didn't stay outside long after that. The official report listed the elk deaths as undetermined trauma. No mention of bending antlers. No mention of willow tunnels. No mention of the exhale in the brush. But sometimes, when I'm driving early patrol along the valley, I'll spot new bends in the willows. Not from snow, not from elk, not from wind. Perfect arches, fresh, deliberate. And every time I see one, I slow the truck, listening. Because in that silence, when the valley is holding its breath, I swear I can hear something return the favor. Exhaling, learning, waiting. I've worked Great Smoky Mountains National Park long enough to know that people can disappear in ways that make no sense. The Smokies are crowded on paper, millions of visitors, dozens of trailheads. But if you step just a few miles off the main corridor, the park swallows sound. Ridges fold over one another like waves. Fog settles into hollows that never fully dry. Old homesteads rot into the ground until only the chimneys remain. People think they're prepared because the trail looks easy at the start. They forget that the Smokies were carved by water and time, not by hikers. My name is Ranger Mason Ellery, stationed out of the Oconaluftee district. I've done backcountry SAR for 8 seasons, and I've learned one thing that never changes. Missing person cases don't start quietly. They come in like a cold wind. This one started with a woman's voice shaking on the other end of the phone. "My husband's not back," she said. "He went out early. He left a note. He hasn't answered his radio." Her husband was Alistair Grant, 54, experienced hiker, a regular visitor. He did a solo loop every autumn, starting at Deep Creek Trail, heading toward Nolan Divide, then circling back. A simple loop. A loop hundreds of people do every year. He always told his wife when he'd be out. He always stuck to the plan. This time, he didn't return. So we mobilized. By noon, we had a command post set up at the Deep Creek picnic area. Fog rolled low between the trees. The air was thick with the smell of leaf litter and cold water. My partner for the search was Ranger Lila Hutchins, level-headed, good at reading terrain, and even better at reading people. We hiked the first miles of Deep Creek Trail at a quick but careful pace, calling Alistair's name every few minutes. The trail was normal, muddy from overnight rain, leaf-packed. We checked pullouts, fishing spots, and every unofficial path people use to reach the water. Nothing. About 3 miles in, at a bend where the trail climbs above the creek, Leela stopped and crouched. "You see this?" I knelt beside her. In a patch of damp leaves lay a rock stack, small cairn. Maybe 7 stones high, balanced neatly on one another. Not official, not natural. Hikers sometimes leave cairns. It's not encouraged here, and we knock them down when we see them. Leela touched the top stone lightly. "Fresh," she said. "Edges are wet. No leaf debris." I looked around. Did he leave it as a marker? "Maybe," she said. "But why here? This isn't a junction." We took GPS notes and continued. 10 minutes later, we found another. Then another. And another. All evenly spaced. All pointing off trail, slightly to the east. "Someone wanted a line followed," I murmured. Lila didn't reply. She just stared into the dense rhododendron, where the cairns seemed to lead. "Grant never went off trail," she finally said. "Ever." We marked the last one and radioed command. Then we followed the cairns. The cairns led us into thick rhododendron. Branches brushed our packs. The light dimmed. After 100 yards, the ground dipped into a small hollow. And at the bottom of it, we found something we didn't expect. A cut branch tied with a strip of red cloth. Rangers use flagging tape. Backpackers sometimes do. But this cloth was not synthetic. It was cotton, old, sun-faded, like it had been torn from clothing decades ago. "Why would he use this?" Leela asked. I didn't answer. Something about the knot bothered me. It was tied too tightly, too deliberately. We marked it and kept going. The cairns continued, but slowly they became strange. Fewer stones, more twisted branches, then bent saplings pointing in the same direction. The markers became older looking, weathered, but arranged with impossible precision. Like someone, or something, knew we were coming and changed the trail language to draw us deeper. By late afternoon, the fog thickened to the point we could only see 20 feet ahead. "We head back," I said. "We don't push off trail this late." We turned around and immediately realized we didn't recognize a single landmark. Rhododendron can do that. It turns the forest into repeating walls. But this felt different. "Where's the hollow?" Lila whispered. "It should have been behind us." It wasn't. We angled west, following our compass. 10 minutes later, we stepped into a clearing. At its center was a stone chimney, half collapsed. I felt a chill move up my spine. There were old homesteads deep in the park, but not here. Not in this section. This place wasn't on any map, Lila whispered. And then we saw it, sitting neatly at the base of the chimney. A compass. Brand new, shiny, untouched. Engraved on the back, A.G. Alistair Grant. He would never drop his compass without reason. Lila picked it up slowly, as if expecting someone to snatch it back. "We need to get out of here," she whispered. We marked the location, moved carefully southwest until we found Deep Creek Trail again, and hiked out before dark. The next morning, the fog was even thicker. Teams were sent to Nolan Divide. Another covered the ridge above the creek. Lila and I returned to the cairn line, this time with GPS pings of every marker, only the markers were gone. No cairns, no red cloth, no bent saplings, nothing. Even the hollow was missing. The terrain didn't match what we'd seen the day before. "Tell me this makes sense," Lila said quietly. "It doesn't," I admitted. "But let's recheck the chimney." We bushwhacked carefully toward the GPS point. Nothing. Not even rubble. No chimney, no clearing. No sign anyone had ever lived there. The forest was unbroken. Even the undergrowth looked undisturbed. "Caleb," Lila said suddenly, "look." About 20 feet ahead, beneath a laurel branch, something dangled. A strip of cotton cloth. Sun faded. Same knot. Same age. But this time, tied high, far above our reach. "How the hell?" We both stepped back. The forest was silent in a way that made my skin crawl. Not even insects. Then, from deeper in the woods, came a sound. Not shouting, not footsteps. A rhythmic tapping. 3 taps. A pause. 3 taps again. Stone against stone. We followed the sound carefully, calling Alistair's name. The tapping continued. Always ahead, always just out of reach, guiding us like a lure. Half an hour later, the fog parted slightly, revealing a narrow draw sloping downward. And there, leaning against a tree, was Alistair's backpack. Pristine. Zippers closed. Water bottle clipped neatly. But no footprints around it. No sign of struggle. No sign of Alistair. "Command, we found the pack," I radioed. No visual on the subject. The tapping stopped. Dead silent. Then a voice called out from the mist. Deep in the draw. "Here, down here." I froze. The voice was male. Tired. Desperate. Leela's eyes lit with hope. "That's him!" "No," I said sharply. "Listen." The voice called again. "Here, down here." Same cadence, same tone. Not an echo, not natural acoustics. It was too perfect, too even. Like a recording played by someone or something, mimicking human sound. Leela realized it, a heartbeat after I did. Her face drained of color. "That's not a person. Back away," I whispered, slow. The voice repeated again, "Closer now. Here, down here." And then in a voice that wasn't desperate anymore, but calm, familiar, almost friendly. "Mason?" My blood ran cold. Nothing in the park should know my name. Leela grabbed my sleeve. "We're leaving, now." We backed away, eyes on the draw. And that's when we saw movement. A figure, tall, still, just inside the fog line. Not shaped like a man, not shaped like an animal. More like a long vertical shadow, trying to understand being upright. We turned and left. We did not run. Running triggers pursuit. We reached the main trail, then the road, then the command post. Only when I heard human voices again did my body stop shaking. On the third day, fog finally lifted. A dog team picked up trace scent heading toward Lonesome Pine Overlook. We followed. Nothing at the overlook. No clothing, no remains, no clear sign. We spread out 50 yards apart, sweeping the ridge. At a small rise overlooking the valley, Leela stopped suddenly. "Mason," she whispered, "please tell me you see that." Leaning against a stump was a rock stack. 7 stones, perfectly balanced, fresh. And on top of it, laid neatly, Alistair's wedding ring. I picked it up. It was warm, too warm, like someone had been holding it. Leela scanned the tree line. "We're not alone," she murmured. The air grew still. Sound died. A familiar quietness settled, the same heavy stillness from the draw. Then, from behind a boulder, a few yards away, something shifted. Not footsteps, not breathing, but shape. A tall, thin silhouette, almost human in outline, leaned slightly, as if listening, learning, studying us the way a predator studies prey, not for hunger, but for curiosity. Leela spoke without looking away. "If it knows our voices, if it knows your name, it's learning patterns." "And Alistair?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. Maybe couldn't. The silhouette slowly receded into the trees, not walking, just slipping backward, deeper into shadow, until the forest swallowed it. We didn't follow. We knew better. We never found Alistair. Not a body, not clothing, not remains, nothing. His case sits in the system as unresolved. But his wife swears Alistair would never leave her, never vanish willingly, never walk off trail. And sometimes I believe her more than I believe anything the park told us. Because I still think about the chimney that wasn't there the next day, the cairns that vanished, the voice that knew my name, the warm ring left like an offering. And late at night, when fog settles into the deep creek hollows and the forest goes silent. I swear I hear tapping. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps again. Like something remembering the way we found it and wondering how to call someone else next time. People think the desert is empty. They picture wide basins under a blazing sky, long stretches of quiet nothing. But Big Bend National Park isn't empty at all. It watches, it echoes, it waits. There are places in Big Bend where you can stand for hours and never hear another human voice. Places where the air gets so still you can hear your own heartbeat. And sometimes, just sometimes, you hear something else. My name is Ranger Paul Hensley, and I was assigned to the Western District, mostly patrolling Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive, Santa Elena Canyon, and the lonely strips of Old Maverick Road. Night patrols out there are the kind that teach you humility. If your truck breaks down, the nearest help could be hours away. If your radio drops signal, you're alone with the coyotes, the heat, and the things that move just beyond your headlights. This happened in early November, during a stretch of cold nights where temperatures dropped fast after sundown. I was doing a late drive along River Road West, one of the most remote roads in Big Bend. It's 51 miles of dirt, corrugation, and emptiness tracing the Rio Grande. No lights, no traffic, no cell service. Just the desert, the river, and whatever crosses your path. Around 9:40 p.m., I saw a figure walking along the shoulder. That alone wasn't strange. Hikers misjudge the time all the time. People blow tires and start walking for help. But this man, the way he carried himself, made me slow the truck to a crawl. The stranger, he walked with steady, deliberate steps. Not stumbling, not panicking, just moving forward in a perfectly straight line. Arms hanging loose at his sides, head tilted slightly upward, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. He wore jeans, a dark jacket, and no backpack. No hydration pack, no visible gear at all. When my headlights touched him, he didn't react, not even a glance. I pulled alongside him and rolled the window down. "Sir, you all right out here?" He kept walking. The only sound was the crunch of gravel under his boots. "Sir, can you hear me?" Nothing. I eased the truck a little ahead of him and put it in park. Desert quiet settled around us. That thick, empty silence, unique to Big Bend nights. I stepped out, keeping a respectful distance. "Hey," I called, loud enough to carry, but calm. "You're on a remote road. Do you need assistance?" He stopped walking. Slowly, he turned his head toward me and smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a threatening one, just wrong. Too slow, too wide, like he was testing the expression, not wearing it. Up close, something else bothered me. His clothes were clean, too clean. No dust, no sweat, like he hadn't been walking long at all, despite being miles from anything. "What's your name?" I asked. His lips opened slightly, and he spoke in a voice that sounded off. Not artificial, not robotic, just mismatched, as if he'd learned how to talk by listening to someone else do it once. "Do you work here?" The words were spaced strangely, the intonation wrong, like someone imitating English without understanding it. "Yes," I said carefully. "I'm a ranger. Are you hurt?" He tilted his head. Then he said in the exact same voice, same pitch, same cadence, "Are you hurt?" My stomach tightened. "That's not what I asked you." He repeated it again, still smiling. "Are you hurt?" Like a recording loop. I took a slow step back toward the truck. "Sir, I'm going to get you some help. Please stay where you are." He didn't move, didn't blink, just watched me with that too still smile as I got into the cab and radioed dispatch. "Dispatch, this is Unit 3 on River Road West. I've got a male subject out here behaving strangely, requesting backup. Static." I moved the truck 10 yards forward. Tried again. "Dispatch, Unit 3, do you copy?" Static. Then a split-second burst of my own voice repeating back to me. "Unit 3, do you copy?" But twisted, slower, warped, like the desert itself was answering me. I stared at the radio. That had never happened before. Behind me, gravel crunched. I turned. The man was standing directly behind my truck. No sound of running, no drifting silhouette approaching. He was just there, close enough that if I stepped out, I could reach him in 3 strides. And he was still smiling. He raised one hand, slowly, deliberately, and placed it on my tailgate. Then he leaned his head slightly, as if listening again. Only this time, he wasn't listening to the desert. He was listening to me, breathing inside the cab. I locked the doors, out of reflex. He pressed his palm flat against the metal, and the truck shuddered. A light vibration, like something muffled hitting the frame from the inside. The desert was silent, the river far away, the sky huge and empty. Yet I felt like something else was standing out there with us, watching just beyond where the headlights reached. I slammed the truck into drive and rolled forward 20 feet. The man didn't follow. He just stood in the dark, one hand still raised, as if feeling for the air my engine displaced. I drove half a mile up the road, found a slightly wider pull-off, and stopped. I tried the radio again. "Dispatch, this is Unit 3. Do you copy? Code 1060. Possible medical emergency. Possible behavioral. Need another unit." This time, nothing. Just soft static, with no structure to it. I tried my backup frequency. Nothing. That's when I felt something strange. A tight, quiet pressure in the air around the truck. Like the temperature had dropped 5 degrees in a single breath. The desert can do that, yes. But this drop felt unnatural, instant, focused, like someone had opened a refrigerator door next to me. I scanned the rearview mirror and froze. The man was standing in the middle of the road, directly behind the truck, far too close for him to have walked there without me hearing. He stood perfectly still, backlit by my brake lights, a long shadow stretching toward me. And then he spoke again, this time in a completely different voice. "Ranger Paul?" My blood ran cold. That was my partner's voice, Ranger Kevin Braxton. He had called me earlier that day about a patrol shift trade. Hearing his voice come from this stranger's mouth made something in me recoil deeply. My throat went dry. "Don't do that," I whispered instinctively. The man's smile widened, too far, as if pleased he'd gotten a reaction. Then in Kevin's voice again, "Hey, can you hold up a sec?" Exactly the phrase Kevin says when he wants me to wait on trail. Exact tone, exact inflection. I shifted the truck into gear and started driving forward, putting distance between us. I didn't accelerate fast. That can trigger a chase response in humans as easily as animals. I just moved. After a few hundred yards, I lost sight of him. But the pressure in the air didn't lift. Something was following. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. I drove until I hit the junction with Santa Elena Canyon Road, where the radio finally crackled back to life. "Unit 3, we got your last transmission. Do you need assistance?" I'd never been so relieved to hear another voice. "Yes," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "There's a male subject on River Road exhibiting extremely unusual behavior. I need backup to assist with welfare and possible detainment." "Copy. Units are 15 minutes out." "Be advised," I added, "he may attempt to imitate conversation. Do not approach alone." Unit 3. Imitating conversation how? "I'll explain when you arrive." Backup arrived. 2 Rangers and a 4x4. Headlights slicing the dark. We drove back down River Road together. The desert was silent again, but the man was gone. We searched a mile in each direction. Nothing. No footprints. No tire tracks. No water access. No reason a man could simply disappear into the desert in under 30 minutes. Just the vast emptiness of Big Bend pressing in around us. Finally, one ranger asked, "What exactly did he say to you?" I told them. I didn't add the part where he used my partner's voice. Didn't mention the replayed radio transmission or the warped mimicry. No one wants to file a report that sounds like the desert talked back. But the strangeness wasn't done. Before we left, we walked the area with flashlights for any sign of him. Near the spot where I first saw him, my light picked up something half buried in the gravel. Metal. I crouched and brushed the dirt away. A Ranger name tag. Mine. Pristine. Unscratched. Not old. Perfectly clean. But here's the thing. My name tag was still pinned to my uniform. I felt the desert wind shift. Just a small current. But enough to make me stand. Enough to make me feel watched. I pocketed the tag and said nothing. The man was never found. No missing person matched his description. No footprints ever turned up. No one reported seeing him on the roads that night. But the strangest part came 3 weeks later. I was at home in the staff housing area when I heard someone call from outside, just after dark. "Paul?" Kevin's voice. I opened the door, expecting Kevin, but the porch was empty. Lights off, still air, no footsteps. Just my name echoing back from the desert. The exact same cadence as that night. I closed the door, locked it, turned the radio off. I still patrol Big Bend. I still do my job. Still drive River Road. Still help hikers. Still love the desert in its quiet moments. But I don't stop for strangers walking alone at night anymore, unless they raise a hand or call out first. And even then, I listen very carefully to how they speak. And if the cadence is too slow, or the intonation feels just slightly wrong, or the smile looks like something wearing a face instead of owning one, I stay in the cab. I keep the engine running. Because somewhere out there, in the emptiest stretches of Big Bend, something walks that is not human. But it learns voices, it learns names, and I think, more than anything, it wants to know what it would feel like to be one of us.